Welcome to Hustle and Flow with Heather Hubbard, episode number 36. Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard, and I was a litigator, partner, and practice group leader at an AmLaw 200 firm. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you embrace your ambition without selling your soul? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I am so excited about today's episode. I have a special guest, and I reached out to her, and I didn't know if she would say yes or no, but she said yes, and I am so super excited to introduce you to her today. Her name is Jennifer Berson, and she is the founder of Generation PR with a J. She's out in LA, and she has a public relations and social media marketing firm promoting beauty, baby, and lifestyle brands. And you might be wondering, well, what does that have to do with us? Well, first and foremost, she is a recovering attorney, and she made the leap. So we're going to talk about that. And two, her focus is on PR and press and how you pitch yourself to publications and news outlets, and I know that you can all learn from that. I know you all want that publicity and that recognition and that expert status. So she is going to help us with that as well. So, Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Hi, Heather. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I know everybody is now dying to know how you went from being a lawyer to having your own PR firm. Tell us that story.
Yeah, it's kind of a non-traditional path, right? Yeah, it seems like it's ancient history now. So it's sometimes I have to remind myself, oh yeah, I did that. Actually, I was talking to my kids yesterday. They're really into Hamilton. We're listening to the Hamilton soundtrack. And there's a whole part where, Hamilton and Aaron Burr are lawyers. And my kids are always talking about that. And I said to them, did you know mommy was a lawyer? They were like, no way. So I was a litigator for about 4 years. And then kind of out of the blue, I just got this interest in promoting a brand. I just had this really strong connection to a fragrance company. I loved the products. Every time I wore this one fragrance, I got stopped all the time. People asking me, where did you get it? And I couldn't find a replacement bottle. I actually found the initial bottle when I bought it on my bar trip. When I, took the bar before I found out I passed, everybody takes off. And so I did. And I found this beautiful bottle of fragrance. And when I was running out of it, I had a really hard time finding it. And then after I did some research, and this is now like 14 or so years ago, so the internet wasn't as robust a resource as it is now, but I found the company and they were based in California. And I just knew that there was so much potential for this brand. And I knew that I could help them get more visibility and help them get more sales. And so I reached out to them and just wrote this kind of passionate email and told the woman how much I loved the brand and how much all of my ideas for where I could help support them. So I said, if you just send me a big, huge box of products, I'll get the products out to magazines and celebrities. And I kind of read it again and I thought, this woman's going to think I'm crazy. And then I'm just wanting a bunch of free stuff. But she let me have all these beautiful free products. And I started sending them out to celebrities and telling magazines about it. And I got my very first press placement, and it was in a national kind of celebrity weekly magazine. And it was about 3 weeks after I initially started it. And it was that first taste of something that was almost immediate. And it was such a stark contrast to litigation, which felt like it was so long and drawn out. And the client told me that this single press placement had the biggest impact on her business. She had retailers calling her to carry the product. She had consumers buying it off of her website, the biggest spike in sales she ever had. And just holding a tangible result in my hand and knowing I had a positive impact, honestly, I felt like hooked, almost like I was on a drug or something. It just felt so awesome. And I thought, if I can make a career out of doing this, then I would enjoy working every day. And so the next step was just to research, what is this service? I didn't even realize that was PR. and what resources are available and how much money can you make? Should I get a job? Should I start my own business? So that was kind of how it started. And then the thought process I went through to get where I am today.
That is amazing. So let me ask you, when you say that you pitched an email and you said, I know I can get you more visibility in sales, did you have any prior experience with that, or you just had confidence that you could do it?
I had confidence that I could do it. I mean, I had some contacts, people that I thought could, get the product to the right people, but I had this really clear vision in my mind about where this brand should be, both in retail and also the different media outlets to reach their target customer. I mean, I was their target customer and I knew what I was reading and I knew that it would fit in really well with all of these. It was, mostly print publications. Now things have changed significantly, but I just had this vision. And at the time, my husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, he was getting his MBA and he was taking a marketing class. And he came home one day and he said, it just hit me. You intuitively know how to do all of these things that we're learning about in school. And I think that you would be really good at this. And so I just had this idea, this vision, and I still, can look at brands and see how they're distinct from other brands on the market and have an idea of how to pitch it, how to promote it, what angles would be interesting story topics to include their product or their service. And that's how I think now. It's kind of like in litigation where both sides get the same set of facts. Mm-hmm. And you have to kind of spin the facts to meet your needs and to meet the precedent that's set and tell the best story that'll serve your client. PR is really similar, where you have a product and, there's a lot of factors about it, price point and, color and style and all of those things that make it interesting. And you get to tell the media a story that sets it apart from its competition, but also fits that media's readership. So to me, it's a very similar skill of spinning facts to your advantage and telling the best story.
I love that you had the confidence to just go for it. So many of the people that I work with, and just lawyers in general, I think after we go to law school, there's just this belief that suddenly the only thing we're good at is being a lawyer. Or if you've been practicing in a particular area for a while, that you can only do that area of the law. And we forget that we're actually really smart, talented, problem-solving individuals that can go do almost anything just because we can. We're awesome. Why not?
Yeah, we're strategic thinkers, right? And the other thing is that, it's a huge risk and we have a lot of financial and time investment in being a lawyer. And for me, that was a huge factor because, at the time I was a lot younger and I just had never really gone against the grain and upset my parents and taken a big risk. And, going to law school was not a big risk. For me, it was kind of prolonging being an adult by going to school 3 more years and putting off getting a real job. And with law, it was prestigious. And I knew my parents, I could overhear them talking to their friends about how proud of me they were. And I mean, that felt great. But law to me never felt like a career. It felt like a job. And I never felt really comfortable in it. And it just was really obvious to me that it wasn't a long-term career for me and also that it wasn't the ideal fit for me. So, but that risk of leaving the financial investment and the time investment, I think is a big factor for a lot of people to feel kind of stuck where they are.
Absolutely. I just did a recent podcast episode on my transition and making the leap. And one of the things I share is that it was harder for other people around me than me. And my father was like, can I still call you a lawyer? I totally get it. What advice would you have for anyone that is considering, maybe making their own leap and transitioning into something outside of law? Do you have any advice?
Well, just based on my own experience, it helps to have a little taste of what you're looking to do and to know that you love it and also to set yourself up to transition where you'll have as seamless transition as possible. So in a lot of cases, that means having clients that you can start your business with Or, you could go get a different type of job and work at another person's company, and doesn't have to be your own company, but try to get some experience doing what you're looking to switch into, especially if it's a completely different field. And, just do a little research. If you know anyone who does this job or has this career, invite them to coffee, ask them to get a drink with you, and talk to them about their experience and what their day-to-day looks like. Because a lot of times you think about what this industry or what this job really entails, and you're usually only seeing somebody's highlight reel. So if you can ask them, what is your day-to-day? What's the nitty-gritty? And anyone who asks me, my day-to-day, I'm in front of the computer. Most jobs, that's what you do these days, is you send emails and you just try to, it's like hitting a ping pong ball to the next person. Like, okay, your turn. You're on for the next responsibility, but you're sending pitches or whatever. It's all in front of the computer. And, but if you looked at my Instagram, it looks like I'm at a lot of events and really cool, beauty events and influencer events, but there's all the work that goes into creating those events. So I sat down and I asked somebody, what does this job entail? How much can you charge? What resources are available? Like I said before, and you might get more of a clear picture of what that really looks like. So you're not jumping in blind with this vision of something that's really the best of the best, that you're kind of seeing the romanticized version of what you think you're getting into.
Right.
And also, of course, logically, you want to have a good runway of, cash that you've got saved up to live. And I gave myself 6 months and said, okay, I've got enough money saved, and mentally I'm going to give myself 6 months to make this work before turning around and, trying to get another job in law. So thankfully I've never had to do that, but
I did the exact same thing. It was also 6 months. So
yeah.
Guys, this apparently that's the number to hit. You need 6 months cash saved up to make sure that you've got that long runway. That's such great advice. So I take it you did the fragrance piece while you were still a lawyer. And then did you start testing some other things on the side as well while you were still practicing?
Well, I did, and I worked unpaid for the fragrance company, and I started to get really good results. And so I was able to kind of spin those results to pitch other businesses. And my strategy next to get my first paying client was to reach out to a business that had products that I loved. And with that company, they needed a lot more support with their marketing collateral, like their website and their catalogs. And I knew the products were amazing, but their customer facing assets were kind of abysmal. And I knew we could help a lot there. Plus I knew that I could get this product in the hands of some pretty influential people and they would love it. And so I reached out to them. I'd done a little work for free for them, and they mentioned they were looking for a full-time publicist. And the person that I was kind of supporting for the free work, she didn't want to touch it because their budget was kind of half of what she wanted to make. And I thought, I'll come in at 50% of what retail market rate is and, give them my spiel that let's work together and let's grow together and, give me 3 months. And if you like what I can do for you and we're having some good results, then we'll reevaluate. And I was able to get in with this great brand that we got incredible results for because the products were so good and I knew they were so good and people would want them. So I ended up working with that brand for 11 years. And it was a baby and kids luxury accessory company. So very, very expensive blankets and bathrobes and blankies and things for kids. But it had such visibility. Every celebrity with a kid was photographed carrying this product because we sent it to them and we were able to utilize those results. And now I have a deep expertise in the baby and kids space. And I represent one of the most well-known kids brands, like a $3 billion publicly traded company. It's a subsidiary of them and really good visibility. And we're known in the space. And it's really exciting to have taken, no experience whatsoever and get this lucky opportunity with this beautiful brand. And that's where I started. And it really started from me going to them and saying, give me a chance and I'll give you half of, I'll give you a reduced rate.
That's amazing. And honestly, I think that is a lesson for everyone. Whether you are wanting to go do something completely different or you are in the law, so much of just, your success and building your book and climbing the corporate ladder is about putting yourself out there, knowing your value, and then getting great results. But you got to raise your hand and you've got to ask. So I love that story. Let's get into some specific tips that we can share. So how do you view branding? How do you view PR in the legal world? Do lawyers need, forget like large law firms, but just either as an individual in a large law firm, or if you're a solo or a smaller firm, do you think personal branding is that important? Does PR matter? What's your view on it?
Well, obviously, my view because this is what I do, but it does matter. There's so many people out there doing what you're doing, and you want to have a personal brand and a reputation that attracts the kind of clients that you want to work with. So it's important to put out into the world the story about yourself, the feeling of the kind of service that you'll provide so that you attract the right kind of clients. So I have a friend who is an estate planning lawyer, and she went out on her own and she's made this incredible career working with young families and helping create the foundations for these young families. It's usually right when they have children, everyone starts thinking about what's going to happen to my kids if something happens to me. So she has all of her, branding, her marketing materials geared towards that client, and it attracts that client. And then the reputation starts to snowball. Everyone within that age group says, well, I have this great lawyer who does this for me. So it helps to have a really clear vision of what kind of clients you want to attract, but maybe what type of business they run or what type of, age demographic, and then have your brand really geared towards something that will resonate with them. And then, with regard to pitching the media and getting visibility with media placements and having the PR component work for you, there's a couple strategies that work for lawyers, but one of them that's probably the most effective is newsjacking. So this is where, you're known for a certain thing and you can speak quickly about a topic, and you're keeping your eye on the media and stories that are coming up and something that is really hot in the headlines that you feel you can contribute to. And obviously you're not going to take any kind of a tragic or terrible situation and make it about yourself. But if you have some advice, some strategies, things that you can quickly come on as an expert and provide your point of view or something that's going to help somebody else that might be in a similar situation, when you see those headlines, be ready to go, because, the news cycle is so fast, but you have about 24 hours to kind of pounce on those opportunities and provide yourself as a resource. And one of the places that I like to tell people to look, not just for opportunities to pitch the media, but for ways to see what the media is interested in discussing, is a resource called HARO, Help a Reporter Out. And if you go to helpareporter.com, you can sign up for this free newsletter and you get this digest 3 times a day. And it's what journalists are vying to know about. And they're asking for people to quote and for sources, and you can quickly jump and answer their queries. But it's so competitive and you have to be one of the first. But I think more than anything, HARO is a really great resource to kind of get into the minds of journalists and think about what they're interested in knowing about and how you can spin your expertise to fit those stories and maybe proactively pitch them without even going to that specific journalist.
So with Help a Reporter, is that national or local or both?
It's national. And there will be, some queries will be local and it'll specify, but I think more than even the opportunity to land coverage for yourself as an expert, because like I said, they're really competitive. Usually the time frame is really quick turnaround because there's so many people reading it. But you can get those ideas about the way that journalists are formulating queries, and you get to know what topics they're interested in, and you can convert that into a pitch that you can fit your own expertise into.
I love that. So my background, I used to practice entertainment, IP, media law, and oftentimes when we were having stories, they would come in, within just such a short time frame that we were reviewing. And sometimes they would just call and say, I have this matter. We need a quote from a lawyer. Who would you recommend in this field? And they were calling us because we were their lawyers. But it often shocked me that lawyers in the community weren't trying to create relationships with the reporters at the newspaper and the television stations, because they often need a quick quote or someone to jump on TV. And if you have that relationship, you can just do it in a heartbeat because they're going to call you first.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make yourself that trusted, reliable resource. And that's what I teach my students, is that you want to be the path of least resistance. You want to make things go as smoothly as possible. You will have, whatever they're asking for turned around in the fastest possible time. So they're always on a deadline. There's always a quick turnaround. So if you can get them the quote or agree to be on camera as quickly as possible and come prepared and be telegenic and carry the segment or provide really succinct sound bites, they're going to want to have you back because you make their job easy.
Yeah. So do you have tips on, other than like going to help a reporter, let's say it is more local or maybe it is national, but how do you begin to develop those relationships? Does it matter? Can you just reach out? Can you just like cold call or send an email? How do you start that relationship? Well,
people don't want to be called anymore. So everything's done over email. Journalists, everyone in my database says email preferred, when it's like, why even ask anymore? But they used to like to be called, but now, everything's really done over email. But, whether it's on a local level or a national level, I strongly recommend creating relationships versus just blindly pitching, because you want to give, you want to show them what's in it for them, that you're adding value, that you're not just asking and taking. It's pretty obvious what a media mention will do for you and your business, but how can you add value to that publication or that TV show and their audience? You want to figure out where you want to find your target audience and where you want to be featured. So usually it's that feeling you get when you're watching a show, reading a magazine, or reading a blog, and you feel like, I could lend my voice to this, or I could lend my expertise. I have so much to contribute here. It's that you're not always a fit for every publication, but as you're reading something and you go, yeah, this really resonates with me and I feel like I could add my opinion or give even better tips, start to think about those publications and take note of who's writing those articles or who is behind, either a producer or an editor, and start to look at their content. If you have social media, you can use your social media platforms to engage with them by sharing their content. And I recommend trying to see where they're using social media most. So if they're posting content on Twitter or on Facebook, try to share your content that connects to them or tags them on those platforms where you'll be sure that they'll see it. I understand a lot of lawyers aren't really invested in social media. So even if you don't have a huge following, that's okay. It's just about them getting to see you, see your name, showing that you're interested in their content. Maybe you tweet out a link to one of their articles and you add a little bit of your own opinion, like number 4 is especially important if you're in this situation, and you preface it so it shows you're really thinking about their content. And then, you give that about a week or 2. I mean, these are for longer term relationships, not so much those quick turnaround news stories, but then you can pitch and reach out. And I recommend doing it in a way where you have a story idea and it's relevant to their audience, and you can tease it out to them with just a little bit of information and maybe a few bullet points so that you're not overwhelming them with the entire story and you're not giving too much away. You're kind of enticing them to want to learn more. And then you end with a strong call to action that says, how about I write this up for you? Or I would love to come on your show and give my top 7 strategies to, have a strong estate planning strategy that will save your clients, tens of thousands of dollars, or something that sounds really like a journalist could sink their teeth into it. And you give them that strong call of action so they know the next step to take in order to work with you and how to move that opportunity along.
So with legal publications, I often try to tell people, and I think we had an episode on this, and I can't think of the number to refer you guys to, but we'll put it in the show notes. If you're pitching to a legal publication and you want to get, have an article in there, I always say, please don't write the article and then send it. Do the bullet points, do the abstract. I assume, is that really the same for if you were wanting to have your own article published as opposed to just being quoted in, for example, Huffington Post or Forbes or something like that?
Yeah, that would be the same thing. That's actually how I was able to get this really awesome article published in Forbes for myself. And, it was that same strategy of reading the articles that they share and seeing who was writing them and having that feeling of, I could really give some strategies here that would be beneficial to this person's readership. And then I sent a pitch email and kind of very quickly established my expertise and what I felt I could share. And mine was DIY PR strategies for entrepreneurs. And I gave like 2 or 3 quick bullet points about what type of advice I would cover. And I sent it off to this editor, and she wrote me back immediately and said, hey, why don't you fill this in a little bit more. And I ended up at that point writing really comprehensive tips. And she just literally copied and pasted it into an article that had my picture, and even my company name was in the headline, and tons and tons of inbound links from Forbes to my website. Like, it was pretty awesome. And it just started from exactly what you said, like an abstract of what I wanted to cover, but really driving the point home that I had something to share that was relevant and timely for their readership. So you have to establish that.
This has all been so great. Okay, so we're running out of time, but if the listeners are like, oh my gosh, I totally need to get on this. How do I get started? Is there anything, I know you mostly work with beauty, baby, and lifestyle brands, but is there any way that lawyers could work with you to help them with their own PR and press efforts?
Well, my best way to do that is through my program. So I have a course called Press Success, and it's my way of taking everything I know how to do and putting it into a system. So it's step by step. It's like a 5-module program. And you can find that program at generationacademy.com. And right now, if you go there, you'll get access to a free 3-part training with workbooks. And it really helps you figure out some of the strategies you can use and the way that you can get to your story or your pitch opportunity for yourself. And, that's free, and it's a really great way to kind of get more about how PR works and how to create your media list and your pitch angle. But that's really the best way. And I did that so that I had an opportunity to work with entrepreneurs and individuals looking to establish their expertise. So I took what I know how to do and I packaged it in a way where somebody can just follow the steps. And we all know lawyers are really good students, so it would work really well for them. So you follow the modules and you fill in the workbooks, and by the end of it, you have a media list, you have a PR strategy, you have pitches, you know when to pitch, when to follow up, how to find, contact information. It just gives you everything you need. So that's generationacademy.com with a J.
That is great. And I will say, I think it's important for solos, if you think you don't have a PR or branding budget and you don't have enough work, so you've got extra time, that's an amazing way to do it yourself. But even if you're in a large law firm, if you're an associate, if you're trying to make partner, I get that you guys have, your marketing departments and you often have PR firms, but my guess is that they're really helping to pitch the prominent partners and rainmakers, and you can really get your own press and impress your firm if you can, follow this approach and get it. Now, obviously, don't go quoting, anything about your clients or your cases if your firms have policies on that. But other than that, I think it is absolutely a great investment to figure out how to get yourself seen as an expert and in the press. So we will put that in the show notes, Generation Academy with a J, and the class is Press Success. And I assume you can sign up anytime. There's no deadline to get in.
Yeah, we opened it back up. So I had a launch and we shut it down for a little bit to get the first class through. And then I was on another podcast that had a really eager, active listenership. And she recommended that I open it back up because she has an ongoing trickle of people. So it's been awesome because, now we can help more people come through the program. But yes, it's open.
That's wonderful. Okay, this has all been so much fun. I love PR. I love just getting, outside the box of the typical way that lawyers do things. And I also love to hear other stories of people that have started their own businesses and used their legal background to, help them thrive in those areas. So this has been so much fun. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. This was nice to chat. I love the merging of my two lives. This is awesome.
Awesome. All right, guys, you can find all of the information in the show notes, and I will see you next week. For show notes, downloads, and other free resources, and to keep the conversation going, head on over to hustleandflowpodcast.com. See you there.